What the hell? Torage the Warrior here, and welcome to my 5.0.4 level 85 Fury DPS guide. So this is what you need for Fury right now. I know it's only going to matter for about a month before we can level to 90, but this will give you sort of a basis for that, and a lot of people still want to figure out what's going on. So this is what is going on for Fury right now. So I'm not going to go over all of the changes. There are way too many for that. Instead, I'm going to cover Fury from the ground up, like it's something totally new. So first we're going to look at stats. Now your gems and enchants haven't really changed at all. Those will change at 90, but not right now. The one thing that has changed though is expertise and hit. They both require 7.5% base. So the magic number you're looking for there is 781 hit and 781 expertise. Now hit is still valuable past the cap because you still have that 26.5% chance to miss with your white swings, and those are still how you get rage. So hit beyond your 7.5% is still useful, but not quite as useful as it was before because you are getting some rage income from Bloodthirst, but still good. Now crit chance. Crit chance no longer affects Flurry. Flurry is just your melee hits have a 9% chance to increase attack speed by 25% for the next 3 swings. So it doesn't actually affect, it's not affected by crit at all. But the thing that is affected by crit is Enrage. Now Enrage is totally different now. They got rid of everything the way Rage and worked. Rage is just a base thing that all warriors have. Mortal Strike, Bloodthirst, and Colossus Smash, critical strikes, and critical blocks enrage you. Of course, you don't have to worry about the block part. Generating 10 rage, increasing physical damage done by 10% for 6 seconds. So because of that, the more crit, the more damage from crit, as well as the more enrage uptime, and that's extremely important as Fury because we get bonus damage from enrages on top of the 10%. That is because Mastery, Unshackled Fury, just increases physical damage done by a percentage based on your Mastery now. So it's just a direct, while you're enraged, you do this much more damage. It doesn't increase the effect of the enrage anymore, it's just enrage this much more damage. So that's going to be on top of everything else, so you're going to have that extra 24%. So enrages are very good, which means Bloodthirst critting is very good, so crit is still very good. Haste, so far, no evidence pointing to the return of haste or ascendance of haste being a sought after stat by Arms or Fury Warriors. It's still more rage, still more damage, still not as good as crit or mastery or hit. Now, looking at our attacks, we still have Bloodthirst, which is at the center of our rotation. It's got a little bit longer cooldown, does a little bit less damage, but it now generates 10 rage. So it's still going to be at the core of everything because of the rage generation and because of when it crits, you get the extra enrage. It's also important to note that Bloodthirst has double the normal chance to be a crit. Colossus Smash is a bigger nuke now than it used to be, but its armor bypass is still the same. It can still be glyphed to cause weakened armor, and it also causes physical vulnerability. Weakened armor is just the blanket term they use now for any Sunder effect, and physical vulnerability is that 4% physical damage taken that rogues and arms warriors were doing before. Raging Blow is not affected by your mastery anymore, so it doesn't get more damage as you get more mastery. It's just flat 215%, which is a big, huge nuke, both weapons, and it works different now. It's not you can only use it while enraged, it's for every time you get an enraged, you get 1 charge of Raging Blow. So every time either your Bloodthirst or Colossus Smash crits, that gives you an enrage. Even if it overlaps the enrage you already have, so if you Bloodthirst Colossus Smash and they both give you an enrage, you then will have 2 enrages, and you can store up to 2 charges of it now. And it doesn't have a cooldown, so you can have 2 Raging Blows and just use both of them back to back. Also, you can get an enrage and not worry about you have to use that Raging Blow right away, because if you get another enrage, you will waste that first Raging Blow because you can store a second one. So that's super, super useful to keep in mind. Also, Berserker Rage can be used to give you an additional charge of Raging Blow. Another thing to keep a note about Berserker Rage is it does cause the enrage effect. So it gives you that 10% damage done plus the 24% or whatever mastery you have percent boost. So Berserker Rage is if you don't have another enrage, is a bit of a DPS boost now too. The last ability to talk about here is our Wild Strike. Now, Wild Strike is our new filler. We don't have a Slam anymore. We used to get a Blood Surge, and then we hit Slam. That's not even a Fury thing, so we have Wild Strike instead. Now, that doesn't require proc. Wild Strike has no cooldown. It just costs 30 rage, which is pretty much where most of our rage ends up going, because Bloodthirst gives us 10 rage, Colossus Smash is free, and Raging Blow only costs 10 rage. So Wild Strike costing 30 makes it very expensive. Now, it is with the offhand, and it is based on weapon damage, so some people are thinking maybe our big weapon should go on the offhand. It doesn't make a big enough of a difference, so you still want the big weapon. If you have two weapons that have different damage, you still want the heaviest hitting weapon in the main hand. Now, the new Blood Surge causes Bloodthirst hits to have a 20% chance of lowering the global cooldown to 1 second on your next 3 Wild Strikes, and also makes them only cost 10 rage. So for the price of 1 Wild Strike, you get 3 Wild Strikes, and you get them in 2 global cooldowns instead of 3 global cooldowns. So in between the Bloodthirst, you can fit all 3 of these Wild Strikes. In addition to your basic attacks, there's a few attacks you gain from talents. First one that's actually an attack is Impending Victory. Now, Impending Victory only costs 10 rage, so if you don't have an enrage and you don't have enough rage to use a Wild Strike and everything else is on cooldown, you can actually fill a gap in your rotation with Impending Victory to get more damage than no damage. Also, to fill that gap, you could use Dragon Roar or Shockwave. Now, Shockwave is only a 20-second cooldown, and single target, it's really not all that great. So you can use it as a free way to fill a global cooldown, but Dragon Roar just does a whole bunch more damage for something that you're really not going to be using a ton. And if you look at them, they're pretty close to the same DPS. Shockwave actually has more, but if you look at 20-second increments, so 20 seconds in 1 minute, that means 3 Shockwaves to every 1 Dragon Roar. So the actual global cooldown cost of getting the same damage as Shockwave is more than Dragon Roar. Last one is Bladestorm. Bladestorm by far does the most AoE damage, but it does cost that 4 global cooldowns because it lasts for 6 seconds. Now, you can also shout during Bladestorm now, which means you can use Piercing Howl and all your other shouting abilities, Battle Shout and Disrupting Roar if you decide to use that, while you're in the middle of Bladestorm. A sort of last but not least filler is Heroic Throw. Now, Heroic Throw is free, like it's always been, but before you didn't really want to use it as a filler because it would reset your swing timer, making it actually cost rage, deceptively cost rage, basically, because of the reset on the swing timer. It no longer does that, so if you see here, before you used to get a reset on it, so if we wait till we're about to attack again and we use that, you'll see my melee swing will still go on in addition to the Heroic Throw. So that can also be a gap filler there now. Now for your attacks. So I've set this all up here in sort of what I call a combo priority system. Basically, these are all the 3 global cooldown combinations that you're going to be using as a Fairy Warrior. Notice they all start with Bloodthirst. Each column is a different combo. So if you see here, our first combination is just Bloodthirst, Colossus Smash right away, and then Raging Blow. Raging Blow is your heaviest hitting nuke, so you want to use it as often as you have it enraged to use it for. If you don't have it enraged, you still want to use Colossus Smash on cooldown. Now, it may be worth it. That would be definitely the time to pop a Berserker Rage and get the Raging Blow in there anyway. If not, you don't want to wait all day long delaying your Colossus Smash, hoping you get enraged, though, if that's not the case. So it is okay to just Colossus Smash and Wild Strike. The next combo you want to do here is just the Bloodthirst and then Raging Blow, Raging Blow. You just want to get as many Raging Blows as you can, so if you've got 2, because remember you can hold 2 charges of them, just use them both right away. Now, I wouldn't recommend using Berserker Rage to get a second Raging Blow unless you don't have anything else. And that really is for the specific reason of saving it for getting it in during a Colossus Smash. Now, if you do Bloodthirst, Colossus Smash, Raging Blow, and then since the Colossus Smash will cover your next 4 globals if you have the latency thing set up right. So if you go Colossus Smash, Raging Blow, Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, that would be the time where you'd want to use that Berserker Rage to get a 3rd Raging Blow in under 1 Colossus Smash. The next thing would be your Blood Surge proc. So just be Bloodthirst, and then you can fit all 3 of those Wild Strikes in there in that one combination. Remember, they have the 1 second cooldown instead of the 1.5 second global, so you can fit all three of them in there without worrying about anything else and go right into Bloodthirst. The next combo here, now you'll notice I have Whirlwind down here, so that would be your Raging Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, Wild Strike. But if you have this glyph here, which is the glyph of Raging Blow hits increase the damage of your next Whirlwind by 10%. Now that's 10% is just enough to put that Whirlwind damage, the combination from the main hand and offhand Whirlwind damage, to be more damage than a Wild Strike. So if you have that glyph, you're going to want to switch this here to a Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, Whirlwind combination. Now you're only going to use that if you have the buff, and if you can see here, if we use our Raging Blow, it only lasts like 6 seconds, so you're really not going to be able to store it from the cooldown from before. So you're not going to be able to like hold on to that next thing, that next Whirlwind from the Raging Blow proc. After that, if you don't have an Enrage and Colossus Smash is on cooldown, then you're just going to go ahead and Wild Strike twice in between. And remember, that's going to cost you a whopping 60 Rage because you don't have the proc and you're just using those back to back, so make sure you have enough Rage to use both of those. Now for the last thing here, we've got our Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, and Battle Shout. Now Battle Shout, I'm just using it here as an example as your X attack. So that could be a talent attack, so either your Impending Victory or your Dragon Roar, Shockwave if that's what you have for the fight. So any of those would work for there. Also your Heroic Throw would work on that as well. And then your last thing, if you don't have an Enrage but you do have enough Rage for that Wild Strike, you can Bloodthirst, Wild Strike, and then X. So the next thing to talk about is Heroic Strike, and with Heroic Strike comes Rage management and how Rage is generated. Now we do have Rage smoothed out considerably because of Bloodthirst, giving us that 10 Rage. But how we gain Rage has changed, and it changes depending on what stance we are in. Battle Stance just gives you a high amount of Rage when you attack. Defensive Stance gives you 1 Rage every 3 seconds, and Berserker Stance gives you Rage from attacks, but half as much as Battle Stance, and it also gives you Rage from damage taken, and that is 1 Rage for every 1% of your health that you take in damage. So if there's a bunch of AoE going on in that fight, it may be good to be in Berserker Stance while that AoE is going out, because you may end up with more Rage that way. Now with this, Heroic Strike is going to be used a bit more often than it was pre-patched. Maybe not quite like Lich King often, where you were just spamming it all of the time, but pretty often. And it really helps you. In addition to this, we have an extra tool now that helps us manage our Rage, and that is the Glyph of Unending Rage. And what this does is just make you have 120 Rage cap instead of a 100 Rage cap. And it's also good to note that even if you do change stances, you don't lose any Rage for changing stances like you used to. Another Rage management tool we have is Deadly Calm. Deadly Calm got changed, and it's available to all warriors now, and it just makes the Rage cost of your next 3 Heroic Strikes or Cleaves 10 less Rage. So it's not free Heroic Strikes, but it's cheaper Heroic Strikes, so pretty much just be using that on cooldown whenever you would be using Heroic Strikes regularly to make them cost less. In fact, a lot of people have just been macroing Heroic Strike and Deadly Calm together, and I really don't see any penalty for doing that. Now for Single-Minded Fury, you can just switch to one-handers. You don't have to, there's no respecking or changing you have to do. It's just if you're holding one-handers, you're Single-Minded Fury. If you're holding two-handers, you're Titan's Grip. So it just gives you enough extra damage to compensate for the lost damage on the two-hander. And the only other thing to note about that is that this whole Raging Blow Whirlwind trick, since you have lower weapon damage attacks from one-handers, that doesn't end up working at all. So don't even bother with that. Now let's look at our specialty rotations. First, we're going to take a look at AoE. Most important factor in Fury AoE is the new Meat Cleaver. Basically, every time you use Whirlwind, you get a stack of Meat Cleaver. For every stack of Meat Cleaver, your Raging Blow will hit 1 additional target. So essentially for AoE DPS, you're going to spam Whirlwind the number of times that there are targets available to hit. with Raging Blow, and then hit Raging Blow, using Bloodthirst as needed in order to gain rage. Most of the time, that's still going to be using it on cooldown, but if you have excess rage, you can go ahead and skip Bloodthirst. Although it is unlikely you will have enough rage to use it, you can use Cleave, obviously, instead of Heroic Strike for excess rage. So for 2 targets, we're going to Whirlwind, and then hit Raging Blow, hitting both targets. For 3 targets, we can Whirlwind twice, and then hit Raging Blow to hit all 3 targets. Note that even if you don't have extra rage, you probably still want to hit Bloodthirst just for the extra enrages in order to use Raging Blow. And for 4 targets, we can hit all 4 with a Raging Blow. Also, your 4th talent tier will give you 3 useful abilities for AoE. For a couple of targets that you're going to be damaging over a long period of time, you probably want Shockwave, just because it can be used every 20 seconds and has the highest overall damage to multiple targets. However, as far as global costs, it is the least effective. Bladestorm will give you the most burst AoE damage, and Dragon Roar is pretty much good for single target, although it can be used opportunatively in multi-target situations. Remember that Bladestorm, if you're Fury, now hits with both weapons. For the Execute phase, Execute has been buffed considerably and has a static rage cost of 30 now. This means for the Execute phase, you want to keep using Bloodthirst for the extra rage, Colossus Smash for the extra damage and because it's free and won't cut into your Execute, and Raging Blow, because it actually is still more efficient than Execute. It only costs 10 rage, even though it doesn't do as much damage, making your rotation like normal, except all other fillers are replaced with Execute. That's all there really is to cover. So now we're going to show a quick little DPS demonstration. Keep in mind that I am not a machine, and this rotation is new to me as well, so there are some mistakes in this, but the damage still seems pretty darn good.
All of a sudden, out of the blue, a strange feeling may come to you. If I should be honest with myself and put my pride on the shelf, can't be ignored, no, it will be back again. Keep running from all the pain, but loud I think I'm going insane. Is my momentum in the right direction? I just need an honest reflection.